Good morning, people of St. Paul's, and anyone else who may be watching this video this morning. Welcome to you. Today is Sunday, the 3rd of May, and I am reading from, or at least I'm looking at, John 10, verses 1 to 10, the Good Shepherd. The fourth Sunday of Easter is often referred to as Good Shepherd Sunday, and we can see that as we read the cumulative scriptural passages in our lectionary for today. Psalm 23, probably the best known psalm, tells us that the Lord is our shepherd. Surely, for sure, his goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our life. 1 Peter chapter 2 reminds us of Jesus' suffering, that by his stripes we have been healed. It also reminds us that we were like sheep going astray, but then we return to the Good Shepherd. Imagine you were living in a remote village in Africa. There the image of Ubuntu is most clearly identified because everyone knows everyone else, and people care about the well-being of each other. Life is depicted rather like the body of Christ. When one suffers, all suffer, and each person has a role to play in that community, just as different parts of our body are essential to each other. And in the Acts reading today, we are reminded of the fellowship of believers. They lived together, they shared with one another. Isn't that rather like the way we are living our lives at the moment in these days of lockdown? I think of how many of you I've spoken to in recent weeks who have said, "My neighbor takes me shopping," or "My neighbor cooks a little more than usual to feed me as well," or "My neighbor drops off a meal for me," or that you have said that you are doing these things for others as you do them for yourself. I know in our apartment building, the one in which I live, it's nothing to see someone taking soup to another apartment, or baking biscuits and sharing those, or having a pocket of potatoes and just splitting that amongst various homes. We even have an app where we can post things like, "I have lots of parsley growing on my patio. Just come and collect some." In these times, we have learned, haven't we, to care for one another, even to rely on one another. Our lives are modeling that of the Good Shepherd we meet in Psalm 23, in Ezekiel 34, and in John's Gospel. But it's more than that. We need to go back to the beginning to truly understand and accept the profound truth of Jesus as the Good Shepherd. In verse 9 of chapter 10 of John's Gospel, Jesus says, "I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved." That salvation is linked to the promise of pasture and protection, in other words, in and out of the sheep pen. In chapter 9 also, we met the man born blind who gains his sight when he meets Jesus. It means that he will never know. It means that he will always know sustenance and security. For the disciples overhearing Jesus' words, that which is for the blind man is for every disciple, is for every believer. The basic needs of life, food, water, shelter, intimacy, all of those Jesus affords. In chapter 1, verse 18, we read, "No one has ever seen God, but the one and only Son, who is himself God, and is in the closest of relationships with the Father, he has made him known." Sadly, many readers and hearers of this particular passage will extract its seemingly exclusionary claims of Jesus as the sole source and means of salvation. Chapter 14, verse 6, where Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Such a claim is counterintuitive to the theological premise of the fourth gospel, that God so loves the world that he gave his one and only Son to save the world through his Son. I realize that was said of believers, but it also talks of saving the world, a discussion for another day, perhaps. But there's another important lesson here, that believers are best and strongest together. All the sheep who enter the gate of the sheep pen are strong together. But there's also a caveat to that. We need to be open and honest about how we live our lives as God's people. And you know, and I know, how many times we have let God down in that respect. In recent broadcasts, I've talked about the importance of prayer, going deeper into our relationship with God through prayer. But I also know that hearing God's voice does not always happen easily, even for those who are close to him. Yet neither he nor they abandon one another. So when God calls us through Jesus, we dare to trust that we will be fed along with all God's people. There's an excellent book by Paul Knitter, Jesus and Other Names is the title, and it identifies Christian mission and global responsibility as we proclaim the name of Jesus. Knitter is a Catholic theologian of note, and he postulates that we must try to walk in the moccasins of others, pass over into their worlds. In a way, learn to feel as they feel. Conversation breeds understanding and is necessary for the proclamation of the gospel. And proclaim we must, but remember that it is Christian witness which identifies us as God's people, not just words. Jesus' connection between himself and his followers is every day a new opportunity for you and I to touch the hearts of others. But yes, there will be those who will not listen, just as the Jews of that time were divided by the things Jesus was saying. However, as believers, we know what Jesus brings to his own. We also know what false prophets bring, and there is no comparison. However, Jesus' statement that he is the gate for the sheep to enter is not always a convincing statement for others. But it has a better chance of being believed if the lives of his followers mirror the life and ministry of Jesus. There will always be false prophets, but true followers of Jesus have no difficulty in identifying them. I'm going to close by reminding you of the iconic painting by Holman Hunt in St. Paul's Cathedral in London. It is entitled The Light of the World, and it depicts Jesus behind a door and a person on the other side of the door. But note carefully, there is only one handle to open the door, and that handle is on the side of the person on the other side of the door. My friends, just as we know Jesus to be the Good Shepherd, just as we know him to be the way to the Father, he needs us to be fully committed to him, to enter that door, and to live our lives as true believers of the risen Lord. So bless you this day, and in the days ahead. Continue to soldier on, to be with and for Christ, and be both safe and blessed. Amen.